It's 7 a.m. Your alarm has just gone off for the third time after a few disgruntled taps of the snooze button. You recognize that this is the absolute latest you can wake up and still get to work on time, so you begrudgingly roll out of bed to start your day. You feel groggy, and that grogginess continues as you drive to work. And it doesn't get any better once you arrive and actually have to start working. You drink your first cup of coffee of the day just so you can accomplish the bare minimum on your morning tasks. Does all of this sound familiar? Are you tired of feeling like you're just barely getting through the day? What if I told you there's a way to revolutionize your mornings and take your daily productivity to the next level? A constructive, rewarding day begins when you take the necessary steps to care for and nurture your brain so that it can work with you instead of against you to maximize your potential productivity. You're watching Wealthy Buddha, and today we're giving you the ultimate perfect morning routine to have a meaningful, gratifying, and productive day. Although we're here to talk about the best possible morning routine for our brain functioning and well-being, we're going to start with the night before. We've all heard the saying, a great morning starts with a great night's sleep. But have you ever wondered what exactly happens in your brain during sleep that makes this the case? The health of your brain and sleep are very intimately related. Sleep is the mind's time to rest and recharge. When we get proper sleep, memories and new information are processed and filed away for our minds to retrieve later on. Sleep is also the time when emotional processing takes place. Have you ever noticed that when you miss out on sleep, you tend to be more sensitive, easily irritated, or impulsive? There's a biological reason for that, and it has to do with two areas of the brain called the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala is in charge of our emotional responses, but to do its job correctly, it needs us to sleep, because that's the time it's allocated to process emotion. When we miss out on sleep, the amygdala goes into overdrive, causing our immediate emotional reactions to intensify. In fact, one study using MRI brain scans showed that the amygdala was around 60% more emotionally reactive in participants who were sleep deprived compared to those who were well rested. Hence why you are more prone to road rage after a poor night's sleep. Another area of the brain involved in emotional regulation, the prefrontal cortex, also gets hit with the consequences of sleep deprivation. Our prefrontal cortex is the voice of reason to our emotions. It helps us control our impulses. However, like the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex can't do its job properly when we don't sleep well. Much of this has to do with a disruption in communication between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, who work closely with one another. This makes us more impulsive and less likely to think through our emotional reactions. In addition to emotional instability, scientists know that a lack of sleep causes chemical imbalances in the brain. Some of the most valuable chemicals in the brain are our hormones. Our body produces and regulates roughly 50 different hormones, which act as chemical messengers for the brain, traveling through our blood and delivering messages from the brain to different areas of the body. Hormones influence appetite, weight, mood, immunity, growth, healing, and much more. In a word, hormones allow us to function properly. Lack of sleep messes up the communication between the brain and its messengers, causing our hormones to act incorrectly or deliver misinformation to the body. Although many hormone levels are influenced by sleep, cortisol, the hormone that impacts stress levels, has one of the biggest impacts on the state of our mental health. Cortisol is a steroidal hormone produced by the adrenal glands that plays a big role in our flight or fight response. It helps keep us alert. It's very important for cortisol levels to be just right. Unfortunately, when we don't get enough sleep, too much cortisol is produced. This puts our body in a constant state of stress, unable to relax. Stress has a number of detrimental effects on the body, including impaired thinking, weight gain, and the inability to control emotions. For all of these reasons, getting a proper night's sleep is an extremely important precursor to the ideal morning routine. Although there is some genetic variation, most adults need between 7.5 to 8.5 hours of sleep per 24-hour period to function optimally. You can find your optimal sleep time by performing a sleep experiment on yourself. Set aside several days, perhaps during a vacation, where you commit to a consistent bedtime and then allow yourself to sleep as long as possible. Once you know how much sleep you need, it's important to allot that amount of time in your daily schedule for sleep. When you make a habit of this, you will notice numerous positive effects to your daily functioning, including increased memory retention, better regulated emotional reactivity, reduced stress levels, and an overall improved cognitive performance. Now that you've made your sleep a priority, you're ready to start off your ideal morning routine. One of the best first things to do when you wake up in the morning is to meditate. It doesn't have to be long. Even 10 to 15 minutes of meditation first thing in the morning can have a profound effect on your mental well-being. Meditation is best performed directly after you wake up because your mind is less likely to wander since it is still turning on for the day. Meditation has shown numerous benefits for our brain and well-being in a number of different studies. Perhaps one of the most obvious is a study from Yale University which found that mindfulness meditation decreases activity in the default mode network, or DMN, the brain network responsible for mind-wandering and self-referential thoughts, aka monkey mind. The DMN is on or active when we're not thinking about anything in particular, when our minds are just wandering from thought to thought. Since mind wandering is typically associated with being less happy, ruminating, and worrying about the past and future, it's the goal for many people to tone it down. And meditation, through its quieting effect on the DMN, appears to do just this. But this isn't the only benefit meditation has on brain functioning. A recent study from Johns Hopkins looked at the relationship between mindfulness meditation and its ability to reduce symptoms of depression, anxiety, and pain. Researcher Madhav Goyal and his team found that the effect size of meditation was moderate, at 0.3. If this sounds low, keep in mind that the effect size for antidepressants is also 0.3, which makes the effect of meditation sound pretty good. Meditation isn't a magic bullet for depression, as no treatment is, but it's one of the tools that may help manage symptoms. There are even some studies which have shown that meditation helps preserve the aging brain. A study from UCLA found that long-term meditators had better preserved brains than non-meditators as they age. Participants who'd been meditating for an average of 20 years had more gray matter volume throughout the brain. Gray matter is a very important part of our central nervous system, which enables us to control movement, memory, and emotions. So this is a huge breakthrough for anyone interested in preserving their cognitive abilities for as long as possible. The list of shown benefits of meditation on the mind go on, including improved concentration and attention, and even a greater ability to overcome addiction. There's no questioning that working meditation into your daily routine is one of the best actions you can take to nurture your brain and improve your overall well-being. Now that you've performed the wonderful brain training exercise known as meditation, the next step to your ideal morning routine is to step outside for a minute and take a look at the morning sky. Yes, really. Seeing the natural light of the sun, especially in the morning, has many positive effects on the brain. The human eye contains photosensitive cells in its retina which are stimulated by sunlight. These cells directly affect the brain's hypothalamus region, which in addition to regulating our nervous and hormonal systems, also controls our circadian rhythm, otherwise known as our biological clock. The brain's pineal gland also benefits directly from sun stimulation. The pineal gland produces melatonin, a powerful antioxidant, which is important for proper sleep and intestinal function, and can help prevent depression. Basically, looking at the morning sky will help you kickstart your circadian rhythm and help you wake up faster and easier, which will then lead to a better sleep at night. So if you're having issues with part 1 of this morning routine, getting a great night's sleep, then the simple task of stepping outside at dawn to look at the sky can actually help quite a lot. This will then lead to increased alertness and better cognition throughout the entire rest of the day. These changes are often not experienced in many people until their morning coffee kicks in, but taking a peek outside at dawn's first sunlight is an even better substitute because your brain doesn't have to depend on caffeine to feel alert and focused. Once you have stepped outside for a minute to kickstart your daily cycle, it's time for the next step in your perfect morning routine, which is to move your body. Once again, this doesn't have to be a long or intense form of exercise. Just 10 minutes of walking in the morning can bring about many health benefits for your brain in addition to the rest of your body. Physical exercise can affect how much of certain proteins are made in the brain. In particular, the levels of a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF for short, increase after exercise. The release of BDNF is like a bubble bath for your brain. It helps to maintain the life of your cells as well as grow new ones. Studies have shown that BDNF makes it easier for us to absorb information and form long-term memories. Your hippocampus is the part of your brain which helps us to determine which memories are important and store them as long-term memories in other parts of the brain. Your hippocampus shrinks as you age, but higher levels of BDNF are linked to a better sustained hippocampal volume, and aerobic exercise can actually even lead to a larger hippocampus, even in older adults. What this means is that BDNF, and therefore exercise, may even reduce the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia as we age, and studies have shown that the earlier you get started with a daily exercise routine, the better it will be for your memory later in life. But that's not the only benefit that BDNF provides to our brains. It has also been shown to trigger the production of serotonin, which leads to a decreased risk of anxiety and depression, and an improved mood overall. These are all extremely good arguments for why daily exercise is an absolutely vital part of any ideal morning routine. It is important to note that exercise does cause our blood cortisol levels to rise, sometimes for several hours. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, as cortisol plays an important role in promoting tissue repair in the body, reducing inflammation, regulating blood pressure, and increasing energy levels. However, for this reason, it is much better to exercise first thing in the morning as opposed to in the afternoon, so your sleep-wake cycle isn't disrupted. If you're concerned about your stress levels throughout the day, you can keep your workouts to under an hour to help regulate the cortisol levels in your body. However, a short morning exercise every single day can certainly do wonders not only to your physical health, but to your brain functioning as well. So if you aren't motivated to work out in the morning, consider how priceless your memories are and start moving to preserve them. Now that you've worked up a sweat during your daily morning workout, it's time for the final step in your ideal morning routine, taking a shower. But not just any shower. Taking a cold shower in the morning has many health benefits. Cold showers are any showers with a water temperature below 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Taking a cold shower for up to 5 minutes, 2 to 3 times per week, was shown to help relieve symptoms of depression during a clinical trial. For people with depression, cold showers can work as a kind of gentle electroshock therapy. The cold water sends down many electrical impulses to your brain. The jolt to your system increases alertness, clarity, and energy levels. Endorphins, which are sometimes called happy hormones, are also released. This effect leads to feelings of well-being and optimism. It can feel uncomfortable to immerse our bodies in cold water, but it can also be invigorating. That's because water that's colder than our natural body temperature causes the body to work slightly harder to maintain its core temperature. When taken regularly, cold showers can make our circulatory system more efficient. Athletes have known this benefit for years, but we have only recently seen data that supports cold water for healing after a sports injury. It's the same reason that ice brings down inflammation when we bruise or tear a muscle. By bringing the temperature of an area of the body down, we speed up the delivery of warmer, freshly oxygenated blood to that area. Some people may benefit from cold showers as a way to help their blood move through their body more quickly. These include people with poor circulation, high blood pressure, and diabetes. The ideal way to make a cold shower is to ease into the habit. Start by slowly lowering the temperature at the end of a usual shower. Get the water cold enough so that you start to feel uncomfortable. Then, stay underneath the water for 2 to 3 minutes. Breathing deeply will help decrease your discomfort in your mind. The next time you try this exercise, make the water slightly colder. After performing this activity 7 to 10 times, you'll find that you might even look forward to turning the hot water down. So there you have it, the ideal morning routine for an optimal mind. As an added bonus, many of the steps in this routine also help to improve your physical health as well. All of the steps outlined in this video can take less than an hour altogether, and with the insane benefits you'll receive from each step, it would be foolish not to set aside the time every single morning to go through this routine and then watch it work its magic on your brain. After staying consistent with this routine, you will not only notice decreased levels of depression and anxiety, but also greatly improved clarity, memory retention, and overall cognitive ability. Everyday menial tasks will be easier for you to complete, and you'll feel much calmer and more relaxed, even if something stressful comes up. You will begin to wake up each day with a revitalized outlook on life, and that itself will motivate you to complete these daily tasks and continue to improve every single day. We hope you enjoyed this video on the ideal morning routine for a meaningful, productive day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and from all of us here at Wealthy Buddha, thanks for watching.